Hey folks, this is Tolly and welcome to some more game dev. Coming back again today, looking at hopefully some combat progression tuning. Kind of doing a general pass of kind of the runs. We'll get into it. I'm not going to explain it, but basically we're going to be looking at kind of how we distribute items and how quickly we level up the character. I'm excited to kind of get away from some of the cutscene stuff. We've been down kind of this road of cutscenes for a while now. The last week or so has just been filling in all the cutscenes through the initial kind of introduction of the game, through the Goddess Realm, going through the Demon Lord's Castle to steal the Omni Weapon, and then even the first, I guess 4 or so rooms through the forest are still kind of establishing what are our goals of Chapter 1, what are we trying to achieve. And I think that has been very valuable. I did a playthrough with Drixie last evening, kind of showing her all the cutscenes. She's been hearing bits and pieces, but I was trying to keep most of it spoiler-free in terms of the actual dialogue. And overall, I think it went well. It took her about 15 minutes to get through all of the cutscenes that we've created so far. She has played through all these rooms in the past, so she knows exactly where to go, so that's going to speed things up a little bit, but also we're stopping and talking about feedback and such about the experiences. So, all that being the case, I think 15 minutes is probably a reasonable first guess at how long it's going to take to play through all of this content. And then we start to get to this point where we are at room H8 here. So we start in F8 in the forest, work our way around, and we end up in this room on this tile essentially. And this is where combat starts. In G8 we had just unlocked the sword essentially, which is going to give us our first true combat ability. We had punch as kind of something to get through some of the early cutscenes and have the player fail with. In situations where they're intended to not be able to win. And now we kind of unlock this first weapon, which gives us the ability to start fighting the enemies. Now, I need to be in a better tutorial state in order to actually represent this, because the clock isn't showing up and such. But the point is that we get this weapon here, and then we transition into this next room, which is where I had started the stream. So, my hope is that today we can kind of get out of that little bit of long stretch, to get out of that long stretch of cutscenes at the very beginning and start getting into the actual kind of combat progression and the player's kind of growth of actually becoming stronger and being able to defeat these enemies more easily. Now, this is the first enemy we fight. I do want to do some tutorialization and cutscenes here, but I'm not going to start there today. We're going to just worry about that later because I just need a break from building all of these cutscenes. And I think the only thing I want to do is make sure that the first enemy that spawns here is a special variation of the mini slime. So we have this mini slime here. If we look for that prefab, I should be able to make a copy of this one. And we're going to call this mini slime tutorial. This one is going to have a little bit of special logic in that it is going to have a guaranteed item drop, I think is the most important thing for me right now. Because I want to start figuring out how many items is the player going to be guaranteed to kind of gather over the course of their first run, and how much experience are they going to gain. Because they need certain items in order to level up, and they need to gain experience in order to spend those items essentially. So from here, I think I want to duplicate this enemy spawn, and we might want to make a variant of this that spawns mini slime tutorial. This does have a required fields flag, and we're going to want to have this only spawn if a specific cutscene isn't completed. For the time being, I'm just going to quickly make that cutscene, but we're not going to fill it in with its actual contents. But we're going to call this first item drop. Set the default trigger. We'll make this a end of turn, I suppose. I think that'll make sense. It'll be non-repeating, priority 999. Should be okay. So we can get rid of all the dialogue here for the time being and just create sequence. Where'd my water go? All right, so with that sequence created, we should be able to grab this trigger name. This will also generate a flag for when it's completed, and we will make it so this enemy here for the tutorial enemy, we'll just name this object so it's easier to tell which one's which. This one will only spawn if this cutscene is not completed. And then this one will only spawn if it is completed. And they can both exist on the same tile, and we'll never have both of them appear at the same time, ideally. Okay, and now the difference with Mini Slime is we're going to make it so this one, in its loot section, instead of having a chance of having an empty item, we're going to make it so it only has one item, which is going to be a strength node, and essentially give it 100%. This could be one or whatever. There's only one item drop, so it'll guaranteed give this item every single time. Okay. So in theory, we should be able to advance up here, defeat this slime, and it should always give us a strength crystal. Yes, perfect. So that's item number 1. As we progress through here, we are eventually going to get to a point where we level up Slash. I think it's on the second enemy. Oh no, we already leveled up just fighting the first one, and then we got to level 3. And then will this get us to level 4? It does. Okay, so we level up pretty quickly at the beginning here. And I think that was intentional. I wanted to have the player come back and start upgrading and feeling like they're getting way stronger, way more quickly. So if we go back to the Goddess Realm, we should get the ability progression cutscene. Yeah, and this one hasn't been touched or modified. It is broken though. Okay, so we are going to have to fix that at the very least in order to be able to start upgrading our character. Looks like reveal tile is not working. We had readjusted the Goddess Realm's tile naming essentially a couple of days ago, and we are still finding bugs with this. But in the long term, it will be great to have the Goddess Realm set up correctly and consistently. So in here, this is trying to reveal tiles 8, 9, and 8, 10. So if we boot up the Goddess Realm, we can save the changes in here. Skill tree unlock. Oh yeah, these should be 9, 10, and 9, 11 now, it looks like. So we want to reveal these two. Oh, there's two sets. We want to reveal 9, 10, 9, 11 first, and then reveal 8, 10, and 8, 11 second. So we'll see these reveal and then these reveal, opening up access to this island over here where we will be able to interact to open up the skill screen. Any other hidden information in any of these tiles? Doesn't look like it. And this one has the scrying pool, that's good, and this is the interaction. Yeah, that seems like it should be okay. Let's try that again. So I'll just defeat this first slime, and then we'll end the run to make sure that the skill screen is accessible. It is complaining that there are 2 flags with the same ID. Interesting. How did we double up? This was obviously not a problem just a second ago. So what did we do that triggered us to have 2 flags that would have the identical IDs? Was it modifying the Goddess Realm? Cutscene? Can't imagine it would be. This was our first time creating any cutscenes inside of this room, so that shouldn't have been an issue. Interesting. This debug is not super helpful. It looks like it's on enemy flag. Oh, I suppose both of these enemies have the same ID? Oh, no, I know what the issue is here. We generate a flag for each enemy to see whether or not it's been defeated so that we don't respawn it on that location. And I think I made the silly decision to make that based off of the position of the enemy, because I thought I would never have 2 enemies on the same square. Is valid. Enemy transform and scene name. Yeah, we generate a flag ID for each enemy based off its position and its scene, and I thought that would be enough for it to be unique. But because we have 2 overlapping enemies on the same tile, this is no longer valid. Is there a reason? Is there a reason why we do not use the entity value? I think everywhere we're calling this generate flag ID, it has the entity, but sometimes I use the same entity across multiple scenes. Yeah, we're gonna add a extra value in here for the actual entity ID of that object. So this will take an extra parameter, which will be the string entity ID. This is technically breaking a bunch of save stuff, so this would not be possible to be done post release of the game. So these types of things are a little spooky, and I want to keep an eye on them. But at this point, because we don't really have any permanent save files that we have to worry about, it is fine to just add this information. We should just be able to do entity ID and use the string version. We don't need to use the integer version in this case. And then we just want to make sure we're doing that in all locations. So here we have the data we need, so we can just pass it in. And same thing here, inside of isValid, we want to make sure that we are passing in the dungeon spawner entity ID. Perfect. Now, the only other thing is I don't believe these entity IDs were actually unique in this situation, so we'll have to make them unique. So this can be enemy spawn tutorial. And now these two should be unique identifiers, and it should no longer be complaining. Nope, still upset. It's possible the scene data did not get updated. It should be happening on save, but let's go take a look at the actual scene data file, the JSON file that gets generated every time I save a scene. This one here. We want the actual JSON file, which are somewhat hard to read. But we're looking for one that has two identical enemy IDs in it. This one. So you are not getting updated. All right. So let's go take a look at where that file gets modified. If is active in hierarchy generate. Are we just not hitting this? Ah, no, this is a separate function in a different location that needs to generate the same information. And so that means this one also needs the entity ID. Otherwise, it's going to generate different information between the two of them. So they are linked. I think these should probably be a utility function then that generates this enemy ID so that it is the same information requirement and the exact same creation between the two sections. The fact that there's two different functions that I kind of just hope will be identical is not great. Technically, these IDs can be different if add sibling index is added to them, because this ID is not generated with the sibling index at build time, but it's possible when we reference it inside of the engine. It will have got that modifier added to it. So in order for this to work, this needs to not just get the entity ID, it needs to get like a version that actually takes into account any modifications it might get during the init. So return ID, but we want to add the sibling index to it if we need to. So we'll actually do a declaration of a local ID is equal to MID, and then if we're adding the sibling index to it, return that information. Anything else that gets modified, it also cares about its parent entity. Yeah, we should probably do that too. In fact, I'm not entirely sure why we do this with an init and not just as part of a getter and setter. I guess in fear of these things changing in real time, but like that should never happen. The entity system is pretty core to our whole game though, so I don't I don't love making a refactor and changing this. Is there a reason this wouldn't happen or wouldn't work if we just changed this to use this new getter and setter version and remove these? We do need to make sure that we are not doing... We need to make sure that this parent ID is like that as well. We'd also want to be modifying this one all the way down. And then we probably don't want to do parent init, because it should just do the same logic internally. Is there a reason we would have to do parent init? I don't think so. But we'll leave that down here as part of the initialization function, that it inits its parents before it even tries to do this. And then we don't need it here. These are some pretty major refactors at some pretty low levels, so this may have some big implications if I am not thinking about this correctly or not fully understanding it. And then we probably don't ever want to be using this m_1 outside of this function ever. Yeah, this is just a way safer way of doing this. But again, I'm changing a number of locations. Oh, interesting. Okay, so in this situation, we do want to let this set. That's fine. We don't want to change it. We only want to change it when we're doing a get call for it. Okay. So these are being referenced, so we want to change it here and here, here and here, and here. Very excited for this completely breaking. How much does Unity get mad? Alright, well I caught all the areas where it could be a problem. Let's like move something slightly just so that it re-triggers the save. It's going to come in here and generate hopefully 2 unique modifiers for this. Yep, now they're unique. Perfect. Now we should be able to run this, but the changes we've made could completely break everything. Stop debugging. I just want to see it break if it breaks. No, it looks fine. Like, the changes I'm making aren't inherently, like, risky in and of themselves. It's only that, like, the entity system is, like, core to, like, the entire game structure. And so by modifying it is just inherently spooky just because of the fact that we're changing such a low-level system. Oh. Yeah. I see what so the reason that just broke is we've changed the formula for how we set up entity IDs, which means all the entity IDs we have saved for any room that has an enemy in it, we've essentially changed what its natural ID is going to be, which means we need to go through every room and modify it slightly and save in order for it to actually update the backend JSON file. Otherwise, every room that has an enemy will fail to spawn it. Because that enemy will no longer be in a valid location. Or, more accurately, the ID it's going to try and check against isn't going to be a valid flag that actually exists. Luckily, it's not too much work at this stage in the project. Any enemies in this room? No. I think there's none here. None here. None here. I think we caught everything. The only other thing is making sure that technically this one is updated, because that is an enemy. And then these guards are NPCs, so they shouldn't matter, but we'll just resave that. And also the goddess is an NPC, so it should not have any issues, but we're also going to just make sure that's updated as well. Okay, let's see what else breaks. Okay, that looks good. Yeah, this loads fine now that we've resaved the map. I guess the other way we could have resolved that was... No, we had to go through and do a full resave. Okay, so we've killed a couple of slimes. We've leveled up a little bit. We can go back to the Goddess Realm. Now we should unlock the skill tree and hopefully be able to access it. Still a problem. Oh, that means that we input the string value incorrectly is what that error means. So in here, I guess I used a period instead of a comma again somewhere. Yeah, here. That's an interesting... I've run into that bug twice now in the past 2 days. I don't know, I could just be getting tired. We've been streaming and doing game dev for a bit over a week, which I feel like, I mean, I do game dev as my normal job, but for the personal project, I feel like I'm almost going overboard a little bit too much is how I'll put it. I feel like I am putting a lot of pressure on myself to try and get this demo done by January 19th when I finish this vacation and go back to regular work, and I'm pushing myself probably harder than how I would do a normal work day. I think also streaming is an extra layer that, although I find makes me more productive, is not free in terms of effort. Okay, so we've been able to get into, or we're now able to get into here. We have 1 HP crystal and 2 strength crystals, so we can buy this one. Our SP points aren't going down. Huh, I wonder when we introduced that bug. That must have been a while ago and I just haven't noticed. So when we're purchasing these, the crystals are going down, but we're not losing / skill points. At some point we made it so all skills that are under this slash tree have a shared skill point system. I wonder if somehow in doing that we broke the actual purchasing of nodes. This is where we purchase them, okay. Attempt purchase is going to come into here. It's going to, if we're not holding left control, minus the cost of that node from our skill points, which if we have a parent, we'll use our parent skill points. Oh, sorry, if we are our own parent skill, then we'll use our own skill points. Otherwise, we will return our parent ability skill points. And for setting, same idea. This looks fine. All right, let's just do a quick debug and see what's going on. Technically, that got us a level and a strength node, which is the first things we need. So we should be able to buy at least the first node upgrade. Gonna double check to make sure we're debugging, and we're not. So we'll attach the debugger, and we have a breakpoint at the purchase moment. So we should be able to see this logic in action. We're coming into here. We're going to attempt to purchase from the slash tree. We're going to get our item, make sure that we have one. So we're going to check the cost. In this case, slash is its own parent. For the item can consume, the amount consume 1 is less than or equal to the inventory item, and its amount is 1, so that should be equal to true. So we should get into here. We're going to unlock the node. Sorry, we're unlocking with false? Oh, this is if it is a load unlock. Right, okay, so it's a special situation where we unlock during load. So yeah, so I guess that's fine. So we're unlocking with false, which is saying this is not a special load. And then we're not holding left control, so we should get in here. The node cost was... Oh, the node cost is 0. Oh, okay, that makes sense. So that's the issue. This gives me a chance to show off some nifty tech. So in here, we have this node loader, which shows our whole skill tree. If we click on one of these nodes and go to the parent object, we can see its cost is currently 0. Now, the reason for that is I was playing with a new tool a couple weeks ago, and we have not had a chance to get back to this work. Let's see if we can get that tool up on the other monitor and bring it over. Okay, found it, but I need to go find this default data. So if we go into our TSVs, we should have one in here for our skill template. We're in the wrong folder set. TSVs inside of infinite retries. In here. Now, which one of these is it? This looks correct. So we're going to grab this top section, copy all of that. We're going to paste this over here. Right. Okay, so what we've got essentially is we have this ability now to rearrange our stat nodes into a grid-like format, basically. Oh, this isn't even the right one. Okay, well, which one was it then? I guess we're looking for... health nodes on the left and right. Let's just make sure we're looking at the right data. If we go into here, slash load ability. Yeah, that looks right. Okay. That's a really old one. Slash V2. I see. Okay, it has changed a little bit. That's okay. We're gonna be messing with this today anyways, so I'm perfectly fine having to redo some work. So we'll bring this in. I think this is the same format. So we start here at the entrance, we work our way over. This has been modified to be the Venom Slash ability, and we work our way over here. And we have some other node types that I think I don't have implemented yet, which is why they're defaulting to HP. So yeah, so we have this system where we can download this information for where we want stat nodes and where we want general ability improvement nodes. And then inside of the ability node loader, we can come in here and we can do a TSV name. Looks like the last one we did was skill parent. Ah, that makes sense. So this was when we were generating the data for this top section. Okay, so yeah, if we come into here and steal this name and put it into TSV name and then generate template via TSV and then update our nodes, this is now updated with what was inside of that TSV file, essentially placing a node of that type in each of these locations. However, it looks like when I set this system up, I failed to give each node a cost value. Yeah, we have some amounts being set by default for some of these nodes, but we do not set a default cost for any of them. So if we come into here and do cost and set this to 1, and we could do that for every one of these. I mean, in theory, we could just do that up here because it will be consistent across all of them. It's probably faster. Sure, let's do that. And now if we load or regenerate the template via TSV again, all of these nodes should have that cost associated with them. I need to have this update node call be in part of this button press, I think. But for now, 2 different button presses to get to this state is not too bad. And then it looks like I had modified this one to be an unlock node. Yeah, so this is currently a ability improvement on stagger, but we can change this to an unlock node. None of these other parameters will get used. I don't even think amount gets used, and we just need to give it the ID name, which is Venom Slash. And we should be able to see that working just by hitting update nodes again, and it should repopulate with the icon for that ability. Cool. And then just to make sure I'm not crazy, yeah, all of these now have a cost associated with them of 1, so we can do save ability data with slash selected. And then if we just, remove all nodes and then load slash, we should load up with all of these now having a cost. Perfect. Relatively straightforward. I'm going to just stop the debugger because we shouldn't need it at this point. It was very clear what the issue was. I will be shocked and shook if this does not fix it. So we get our strength crystal. End the run. Get a little cutscene opening up that area for us. And then we can come over here, upgrade, slash, and yeah, now that used our strength node and reduced our SP. Cool. I guess the question becomes what next? So we've got everything working again. Everything was in a bit of a broken state, which is unfortunate, but we've been kind of moving quick and breaking stuff, so that's fine. So we'd have 3 skill points by the time we get to here, if we fought all 3 of the slimes in the route we take to get to the adventurer. So the question becomes, how do we guarantee the player has the right skill nodes after that first run? I don't need to guarantee it, but I would like to have the player have the correct items so that they don't just get to that skill tree and just only be able to buy one node. I'd like to help them a little bit. So I think this is where item placement is going to come in handy. We need to put some chests around the world that will give you some influx of early stat node items. So realistically, we come into the point where we are going to find the adventurer here. This is a crossroad map. I don't really want to put any items in this one. So I guess the spots where we could put items is after this enemy. We could have an item chest here. We could put a chest somewhere in this first area before you cross this bridge into these enemies, or on this side. And then we could, oh, wrong map. Or we could put one in here, potentially up here, or off to one side near the river. But I want to basically give out 3 different types of stat nodes because, well, okay, we need at least 2. Because we want to give you the strength node for defeating the mini slime. And then we want to give you a defense node and an HP node. Oh, Twitch comment, sorry, missed it. Syndex, I need some help with an issue I'm having. I have a canvas, but for some reason there's a gap on the right side of it, and I want it to be flush with the edge of the screen. I can try and help for a real quick second, but I don't want to derail myself too much. So, as a general rule with your canvas, you're going to want to check to see whether or not it's in overlay, screen, or world space. Overlay is going to be your easiest if that's your setup. And then beyond that, you just want to make sure that your rectangle here, your rect transform, is set to stretch, and the left, top, right, and bottom should all be set to 0. As long as your scale is 1, this should ideally fill your entire screen with that canvas. Beyond that advice, I think it's pretty difficult to narrow down on exactly what your issue might be, but those would be my off-the-cuff tips. Make sure this is in overlay unless you're trying to do something very specific with 3D space, and then make sure that you've set this to stretch and filled this all in. It's weird because it's showing a small gap. Those would be the only spots I would think to check, is make sure the scale is set to 1, make sure these are all set to 0, this is set to stretch, and that your camera space is rendered at, or your render mode is set to overlay if you're just doing some ordinary canvas stuff. I'm doing some crazy stuff, so it's hard for me to give some examples. Hopefully that helps. If not, I'm sorry, but I don't think I can dig too much deeper than that. Okay, let's do item placements. I guess first step is let's figure out how to get an item in here. It's been a little bit since we've done one. I guess the only real example we have to go off of is... Oh no, in the combat grounds area we have an interact that we can use as reference. Yeah. This gives a strength node of amount 2. I think we should be able to just copy this directly. So if we grab this interact, copy it, and then go over to, say, this section, and then drop that in here. If we want to be fancy, we can technically give it a parent called interacts. Put that there, and then we'll put this somewhere in this room. We could even have it early on here before crossing the river, maybe. If I give it the... Oh, I want to put this, I think, under here? No, I can just drag this in. There we go. This one does not have the chest, it doesn't look like. No, it's here. It just had a different spot in the list, I suppose. So this is all set up with combat grounds as its information. Is there a way to clear this and have it regenerate all of this? If I hit save... Yeah, so if I clear all this information, it regenerates it, because it finds it to be empty. I might want to add a button to this custom UI to just like clear prop data, so that as we copy these types of chests around, it gets easier without having to go through and clear all of this manually. And then this is currently granting a strength node. If I go take a look at my design data off camera for our items, where's my item sheet? We should be able to give you a HP node, and we can give you like 3 of those here. See if that works. And I don't think you can get to this bridge without seeing this chest. You can hit open, it disappears, you get the items. I think I'd like to do an animation here. It's also possible we don't want a chest. We might want to just have the crystal on the ground and you just step on it to pick it up. Yeah, debatable. I'm going to give that some thought and maybe discuss that with Trixie to see what she wants to do with her art. Because she might want to do a chest opening animation, I'm not sure. Okay, and so with that chest being there, that guarantees the player will be able to unlock at least 2 nodes. The other thing we could do is we could change it so the default slime here under its loot table Oh, I'm looking at the regular slime. I need to look at the mini slime, but interesting that we have not hooked up a loot table to the big slime yet. We'll have to do that as well today. We could clear HP nodes from this one, and we could make it so the defense node is basically a 50% chance to drop. So 25% chance of nothing, strength, and the defense 50. But this doesn't guarantee that a player will get a defense node from these first two. It gives them good odds, but it's not guaranteed. And I think I would like to have the player be guaranteed to get that item. I'm going to rename this interact to HP, just so it's easy for me to remember what this chest is giving at a glance. I'm going to copy this. I guess the easiest thing would be to add a chest in here. Clear these. We need to pass in the prop tile generator. Make sure that this is still set to chest. It looks good. Okay, that data looks correct, but it was, again, a bit of a pain to update it. So I do think I want some sort of regenerate interact data. And then we will make this give a, was it just defense node? Is that what it's just called? Yeah, like that. And we'll have it give 2 of these. Another question, are you able to bypass this without ever seeing it in the current layout? I think I'm okay if that's the case. But if I come up here, yes, I can. I can maneuver in such a way that I could rob myself of that chest. We could move it over here instead, because I think that is an unskippable location. Yeah, and then I have to come in here, clear this, delete this, and then hit save. Let's fix this. It's going to get on my nerves, and I think it should be fast. Interact tile editor. We want to add a new button in here, so we have add custom prop. We should be able to add another one. And this can be regenerate interact data. And then we will just need to grab the interact tile and make a new function. It won't be update, but what will it be? Public clear void clear interact data. And what does this need to do? It needs to go through if generate flag is true. Oh, interesting. Oh, this is unfortunate. This is an ad. That means every time we move this tile around, I think it's regenerating this list. Unless we clear it? No, we do start with an empty list every time. Okay, so that's good. This option. Same problem we saw with the enemies. This does not work if we want to have two interacts on the same tile. But at this point, I think that's okay. It's debatable. All right, and then... I think all I need to do is... Am I overcomplicating this? How does it get added to the prop? Because this is where it's adding it to these fields here, as far as I can tell. But where is this data getting modified? Because this is all on the interact data, which is... technically not even the same thing. Am I looking at the wrong spot? Remove prop on interact. Oh, interesting. These are two different sets of data. So generate flag is making this flag. And remove prop on interact is separately generating its own set of information. Yeah, remove prop on interact is only... Oh, it's updating the prop loader's flag, and it's updating the entity ID of the prop loader, and it's updating the prop entity ID. But generate flag is updating the flag data on the interact data, as well as the required flags for the interaction, and the flag IDs for the interaction data. So there is some overlap between them. Oh, right. Okay, and this is generating it for the interact tile. This is updating it for the tile data, and those are also two different things. I want to take another look at this. This is updating it for the interact tile. Interesting. Then clone, then generate. I don't see anything in here that would prevent this from being generated again, though. This is a new core data every time, so this should be new information here. This should be setting it. Add required flag. I guess the only problem would be... Okay, let's try this again. So if we move this over here and save this... Okay, yeah, it does just automatically update these. The main problem is that it adds an extra required flag in here. Okay, yeah, I was overcomplicating this. I felt like I needed a like regenerate button in here. I don't think we do. The main problem is just that it doesn't properly handle clearing old required flags. Unlockable characters with the hydration. Appreciate it. Okay. We don't need the extra button in here. And we don't need you know what? It is going to be easier to do this with a button. Okay, so I think fastest solution and simplest solution is going to just be looping through the prop loaders. And just clearing their flags. And this can be renamed to clear required flags. And the reason I think I want to do it this way, clear required flags on, I think I'm actually just going to add props dash clear required flags. I'm going to do it this way because I think in some situations we may have added custom required flags to some of these props. And we may not want to clear all the time. We may only want to selectively clear. But I am going to just make it a button at the top that's easier to hit when we do just like say, you know, regenerate this stuff. I think we could also do a very simple check on whether or not which one of these two bools is actually used for generating the flags on the prop data. Oh, that's not what I'm looking for even. I think it's this one. No, this just makes the flag. Remove props on interact is the one that actually adds the flag to the prop loaders. Okay. So only if we have that tick box will we show this information. So if I untick this one, it disappears. Okay. Cool. So if I wanted to move this to here, I would just move it here, hit this button, and then hit save. And it would update everything correctly. And that would be the workflow. It's not perfect, but I think it's okay. The other way would be like to track this like ID value in here and see whether or not the ID no longer matches, and in which case remove it, which is a little bit more complicated on the code side. And if I find that this becomes super tedious, we can go that route in the future. But for the time being, I think this is okay. Cool. Things don't need to be perfect. They just need to be good enough for me to build content. All right, and that should guarantee that random chance is not required in order for the player to get enough upgrade stat items to be able to unlock the first 3 nodes as they play through the experience. It is possible for a player to just miss these chests that are being like loaded in. It is unmissable for like a player will not be able to, okay, this tile will always be loaded in as you progress normally through the experience, but it is possible to miss this chest hidden behind this bush. And so a player may end up getting through a run and not having all the nodes necessary to upgrade in the skill tree. And you know what? That's fine. I don't want to handhold so much that the play experience just ends up being linear. But we do want to give the opportunity for the player to be able to have all the pieces if they find them. Okay. Cool. So if we go all the way back to here, we can move through here, defeat this slime. This slime is guaranteed to give us at least 1 strength node. We'd get that strength node and we can move on from here. As we move through here, we will find a chest that is more visible and we'll get a couple of HP crystals. And then we'll defeat a couple of slimes here with a high chance of getting a defense node, but not guaranteed. There we got the 25% chance of strength twice. I don't know what the cumulative odds of that is, but it's fine. But we would still have this as an opportunity to get 2 defense crystals. Now at this point we'd progress forward, we'd get to the next major cutscene, we'd end up timing out, and we'd go back to the Goddess Realm, in which the Goddess would inform us that we've leveled up our capability with the Omni weapons to the point where we can head over here and check out this scrying pool. We can go in here and we would have 3 skill points from defeating the 3 mini slimes, and we would have enough skill points to be able to upgrade to this point where we would need a upgrade node for the stagger power. Then we'd hit another HP one here and another strength one here. Cool. I think I like the way this is going. After this, we would end up going back and talking to the Goddess. And the Goddess would send us off. That failed. Okay, so this is broken. How did we break this one? Where are we? We're somewhere way down here for our cutscenes. We want to find the cutscene where the Goddess sends us back by talking. It's going to be further down. Goddess Realm, Goddess Realm, Goddess Realm here. Talk before checkpoint. Right. So this is still using the old prop data system. We want to instead use the trigger cutscene sequence step, which is what we're doing elsewhere now. And we have a custom cutscene that we can repurpose that does all of this logic. So we won't need the wait on animation. We won't need setting the speed, fading the player sprite, or playing any of the animation stuff. And we can look at boot intro for the data that we put in here. Not boot intro, first return. First return. So we can do teleport player generic, and it wants to be blocking and play immediate. So before first checkpoint, we want to put in this data and hit both of these tick boxes. Cool. Now we'll give that another shot. And we should be able to talk to the Goddess to start a new run. Mostly just want to test that fix. Perfect, and now that works. I think we're getting close to hitting every single goddess cutscene that we have. This might be the only one we haven't hit yet, so I'm just going to quickly, while I'm thinking about it, just double check this one. Should be 11.6 and 11.7. Yeah, those are incorrect. So this one is 11.7 and 11.6. Okay. And I think that has all of them updated now. Alright, so we start here, we go here, we pick up a couple of HP crystals, we fight a couple of enemies, either get some strength, nothing, or some defenses. If we didn't get any defenses, this is a guarantee to make sure that the player gets at least some. We hit here. This is a crossroads. This one is one of the spots I'm still the most unsure on in terms of setup. We want the player to go down here in order to be able to find the adventurer that they're trying to help already has died, and to get their mace. And then there'll be I've got some modifications to how this flow is going to work, but you'll essentially go back to the Goddess Realm at the end of this cutscene, and you'll start a new run here back at the beginning, and you'll be able to move through, kind of go through the same steps. But when you get to here, you'll be able to knock down this log. The boar will end up defeating you. There'll be some dialogue that I need to get working, so it's like both combat and conversation. I think that's going to be pretty good. You'll end up going back to the Goddess Realm one more time, and then hopefully I can guide the player back over to this room, so they'll go through these spaces, hit this log, knock this over, and gain access to their first checkpoint. But to take it all the way back to here, this is where I want you to go down, but technically speaking, the player could go north to G5, or they could go over to F6. And I don't really have like a good plan for these two directions at this point. I do want to have like maybe a boar or something blocking you so you cannot progress all the way to the end, but maybe the player could investigate over here a little bit and find some sort of small reward if they come here early. It's this kind of weighing of how open do I want things to be, and I want to kind of encourage player exploration, but at the same time guide the player down this path. I think it might just need playtesting, and overthinking it is just going to waste my time, so we should probably just build it. So I'll probably want to grab this item here, and maybe we put a few... This needs a reference to the prop. And then in here, instead of defense nodes... Oh, I guess we don't have the other ability crystals set up for ability power. Yeah, we're missing a few items. I suppose we could set those up. That's likely a good use of our time. I still think that we might want to do the Final Fantasy X thing. Or do I have the reference for that, right? So Final Fantasy X in its sphere grid kind of groups a lot of the stats into like power, mana, speed, ability, fortune, and then they have some like special ability nodes that do unique things. For us, we have magic, resist. I still think I'd like to have a speed stat and potentially a luck stat. And then we have the ability related upgrades, which is the stagger power of an ability and its damage multiplier versus a staggered enemy. And we have the ability's power, which is kind of its own internal damage value. that like gets paired with strength with, it's kind of basically a multiplier on the damage formula at the end of the day. So we need these 3 nodes. So let's just add those in. Like, I might go this route and start grouping them, but I kind of like having a couple of different types of items to give the player. Just seems nicer. And the nice thing is, because all of these are related to stats, we can just show the number of these like crystal items that you've collected as like a number next to the stat, as like a little like crystal icon and a number, which hopefully won't get confusing with the actual strength number that is your strength's stat value. But I think it can work. So this will be stagger power node, and this will be, so these ones get weird because I feel like strength crystal, defense crystal, for whatever reason that makes sense in my mind, but like stagger power crystal feels odd. Maybe these should just be ability crystals. And so maybe we don't group the stats, but we do group the crystals that are used to upgrade an ability's kind of bonuses. This is one of those things where I feel like I could spend forever just hemming and hawing over it, but we probably should just pick something and just go with it and then playtest. Let's go variety. I don't know what they'll properly be called, like the player-facing name, but we'll call this like stagger power node, damage multiplier node, and power node. And then, I don't know, maybe this is like impact crystal. This is like power crystal. And this is just called like stagger crystal. Because it'll be easier to condense this down into one item than it will be to break it out into multiple items later. So I think this is the easiest path. Okay, so then do I need anything else in here for data? No, we don't. These nodes just need this information, and honestly the cost and sell doesn't even really matter that much either. Let's download that TSV and import those. So then in here we should be able to just do IT parsers. No, item parser. It's not under the correct parent grouping, which, whatever, it's fine. Game foundations. Inventory. Validate to see that they were added. They were. Perfect. And now we need to add those to the nodes. Ability improvement node. So this is where these live. How do the stat ones currently work? This is where they're unlocked, but like what determines what item it requires? Here, get stat requirement. And this is used here in get required item. This whole system feels broken to me. The fact that everything is done in this root level feels odd. So we're going to take our first step towards refactoring that. So we're going to make a new... Honestly, what we should do is just do... Yeah, let's rip it up. Let's make this virtual. If I can spell virtual. So if we just make this virtual, we can just have the ability improvement variation override this. There. And we don't need to call the base one. And in here, we can just determine what type it is, and then return that string, essentially. It's a little hard-codey, but I don't have a great way of, like, passing this data on, or inserting this data into the skill tree right now. I think this is fine. I mean, technically speaking, we could give each node in the skill tree a parameter for what item it wants. And then in the prefab, we could go in and modify it, but I just don't think it's going to be based off type. So I feel like putting it here is actually the right call, rather than having to potentially mess that up on data entry. Cool. That should be it. That should be all that's required. So if we come into here and we change this to now grant us a stagger power node, and we could even just give us only one, make a save. This should, in theory, work. We can hit U, restart. Oh, we don't have any skill points to actually properly test this. We will just add a little slime friend. And we're going to delete all these other spawn points because I think these are all just carryover from the past and are getting cluttery. So we'll add a little mini slime here, and we'll have that little mini slime just going from 910 to 1312. Sure. I think this will get replaced at some point with like a boar. Maybe up here. Maybe this is a green slime. I don't know. I didn't hit save. I'm hoping. Oh no, this one... Right, because we copied the tutorial version, this one had the flag set, so we need to get rid of that so that it can spawn normally. It is the right version. Yeah, that all looks good. Unlockable characters with the hydration. Appreciate it. Okay. We got a little friend. We're going to hit this little guy. Just one hit is enough to get to level 2. Get a defense crystal. Come over here, unlock a stagger crystal. And then we can use our debug to unlock the first few nodes, and then with our 1 skill point and the stagger power, we should be able to unlock that node kind of mostly correctly, so that we can make sure that this is working. So hold control to unlock all of these without spending any skill points, and this increases our stagger power by 5, so we can just it doesn't work. Alright. Let's see. Test. Nope. Tools. Debugger. Inventory. Stagger. Oh, we have an impact crystal. Oh no. We have one of each. Okay, we do have 1 stagger crystal. We have an amount of 1. Did we input the data incorrectly? This is a stagger power node, or at least it should be. Oh, wrong window. Oh, we did 100%, just I was talking and not paying attention. Okay. We totally put these in the wrong order, because the enum order did not match the spreadsheet I was copying from. Cool. Let's do it again. Well, at least we know that we can pick up the item, and the item is getting added to our inventory correctly, but I would like to validate that we can purchase it from our skill tree as well. We also kind of need to do a pass on that screen in general, because we're not showing all the correct nodes. And like I said, I'd like to try doing something where the nodes are actually visible next to the stats. And I'd also like to potentially show the ability stagger, power, and damage multiplier, and some of those other things as well. I don't know if we want to show the exact values. It might be fine to literally just have the upgrade nodes just be like increases stagger power, and we don't need to tell you the exact number. Perfect. Okay, so I can use that crystal to buy this, and I guess the previous run was kind of a good test to see that, like, without this crystal it was not purchasable. At this point we would unlock a HP node and a strength node, and then we'd hit a power node, and then Venom Slash I think is going to be another type of item, which honestly, while we're at it, let's just add that. Oh, I guess I should show it. I'm going to add these in groupings. So we have 4 types of abilities in the game, is the way that I'm thinking of breaking them up. So we've got sword, we've got mace, we've got defend, which is shield, and then I think the last one is going to be staff, which is going to be our magic. We've kind of gone back and forth on whether or not it'll be bow or staff, but I think I like staff. And then these will be magic crystals inheriting the power of shield, crystal, and staff. I think there's a debate on whether or not... I have an internal debate on whether or not these should also be broken up into tiers. So in order to unlock a tier 1 sword ability, maybe there should be like a tier 1 node. But for today, we'll just add a crystal for each grouping, basically, each category. And so in order to unlock this next Venom Slash, you would need a sword crystal in order to unlock this. You can still go through and unlock the rest of these stat nodes and power-up nodes for your base level Slash, but in order to level up or to unlock this ability and then unlock its grid associated with it, you would need to find yourself a sword node. Okay, where are we? Where did my Chrome window go? Here. So if we now download that, we should be able to import those as well. These ones get trickier, I think, in terms of hooking them up to the nodes. Oh, that broke. Interesting. It did not like me trying to save it. I've not run into that before. Doesn't look like it happened the second time. I wonder if it was just a timing issue. Like Unity was updating for a second. Okay, yeah, those items are now added to our inventory. So then we just need to come into the nodes again. So we'll go back to here, steal this function. And then sadly the unlock I don't think has a ton of information that we can use to determine what node it should use. We know the ID of the node we want to unlock. Apparently we also have a reference to an ability spec. But this is our own ability spec, the ability spec we're in. Doesn't look like we ever use this ID to get the design data of that ability, but we could. Yeah, that's one route. We could look at the ability we're going to unlock's design data, and then based off of its design data, we could decide which node it should unlock, or which item is required for its unlock. I don't mind that actually, because I think the ability design data already has what we would need inside of it. Because it knows what the string is for its apparent ability, and these will either be sword, mace, shield, or staff. So I think we can just check this. So let's take a look here. If we do ability design data, and we copy this as a reference on how to grab it, we should be able to do unlock ability ID, put this in here. This will give us the design data for the thing we're going to unlock, and then we can do a check on its parent ability. And I think the design data for the abilities, yeah, technically it's slash, but yeah, its parent ability is slash. And bash has a parent ability of bash, and then venom slash has its parent ability of slash. Okay, so they're not categorized by sword, whatever, but they are categorized into groupings that we can check. So if the parent ability string is equal to slash, please return that this requires the sword node as the required item. Still a little hard-codey. Don't love that aspect of this, but I think it's okay. At some point you gotta just get it working to build the video game. Was it defend? And I guess technically we don't even have an ability for... Right now it's shoot, which is going to potentially become our staff. And then we need to make sure we actually update the items, and we update them in the right order this time. So this will be mace, this will be shield, and this will be staff. Okay, and those nodes should now be required to unlock those abilities. Cool. Now what? Okay, let's assume the player has gotten their strength node, got their HP nodes, got their defense nodes, came up here, did not go over to F6 and get that power one, but went down here to G7 and unlocked their mace ability and completed this cutscene. When we finish this cutscene, we need to go back to the Goddess Realm. And we need to have a cutscene when we return, so we won't actually have room for the goddess to tell us about upgrading our weapon unless we tack the upgrading the weapon cutscene onto this one. Sorry, lost in thought. I need to have that cutscene we've been seeing all day where you actually see the skill tree unlock. But if you come here and you manage to get to this area, when you finish getting the mace, I actually want to send you back to the Goddess Realm immediately and have a special cutscene there. So there isn't room to do the skill tree unlock if you get to this point. Do I want to force the player to die one more time? We've already made the player die so many times. I don't want to force them into that again. We might need to have two variations of this cutscene, one where you have unlocked your skills and one where you haven't, but it's kind of going to mess with my pacing a little bit. This is the point where I've kind of just got to accept that it's not going to be the same flow for every player. It's not going to be linear. I'm not making a super straight shot game. I want it to be open and give player freedoms, and that means I need to be comfortable with the idea that some players may have a less than optimal experience. And the pacing may not be as good for some folks, depending on how they end up playing. And that's okay. Ideally, we try and make sure that all the pacing for all the potential paths the player can take is relatively good. Yeah, so if you've gone through all the way here and you've picked up this weapon, I want to end the run, send you back to the Goddess Realm, have a cutscene here. Goddess explains that, like, you're in a time loop, essentially. You can still save that adventurer. If you haven't already died while progressing through here, which is unlikely, I don't think it's going to be likely for the player to die before getting to this point, I would need to unlock the skill tree here to give you your upgrades. So you get a couple points of strength, defense, HP. She sends you back down, you work your way through these rooms. You could try fighting this big slime. And then you get to here, and you try and fight the boar. You fail to the boar. You get sent back to the Goddess Realm. Maybe I just hold off unlocking the skill upgrade stuff until after this sequence. Would that flow better? Because after you get the mace, break this bridge, or break down this trunk to make a bridge, cross over. Fight this boar and lose. Go back to the goddess realm. It could narratively make sense that the goddess is like, you've grown in power though. You may not be able to defeat that boar, but you know, go upgrade your stuff and maybe we can find that shield. Because there's going to be a MacGuffin idea here with the boar fight that you need a shield to defeat it. Spoilers. And so we could give you your upgrades then, send you back down here, and that's when you can kind of go through here, but you've upgraded your with everything you've unlocked at that point. And then you get to this point, you unlock this checkpoint, and the game gets a little bit harder as we start throwing big slimes at you in this area, and then the game splits up in a north-south kind of pass where you can go either way. And you kind of got to go both ways, and you're going to get a little bit of progress no matter which direction you go first. But at this point now, you're this is where the game really opens up. That first path is somewhat linear. You could break out and go over here and get that node. You could come up here and do a little bit of exploring before you hit a dead end versus some boars in G4. Yeah, maybe instead of just like the first time you head back to the goddess realm, you unlock the upgrading, we just make it so you have to go through a couple of these loops. And you may have upgraded upgraded Slash to like level 5 or 6 by that point, and so you might actually get like a couple of you may get even more upgrade nodes than I'm currently planning. I don't know, the pacing feels weird to me, but I guess I could try that. Do I have to go back to cutscenes? I think in order to see how this feels, I think I need to figure out how this cutscene's going to work. Yeah, because I don't need to be throwing everything at the player at once either. That's the other thing I need to keep in mind. Technically speaking, once you unlock the sword and you start killing these slimes and collecting these crystals, like this is already new for the player. At the base level, just killing a couple of things could start to be fun. We don't need to throw in the progression immediately. We can let you like gather some items, upgrade some stuff. Just feels not right. Okay, just got to keep my hands busy. We got to move. We got to keep doing stuff. I can't talk and think about it and philosophically kind of just wander forever. I need to do things. So let's build. After we finish getting this, we come into here. Let's assume the player doesn't go over to F6 and unlock the stagger node power. Instead, they come down here and they get this cutscene. What is this cutscene? Currently, the mace is here and the player is able to interact to pick it up. This should be the mace prop. Do we have the mace prop? I'm pretty sure Drixie checked it in. Oh, maybe it's not checked in. Is it called Hammer? Is that what she named it? Yes, it is called Hammer. there is a version of it that exists inside of the forest decor items. So if we come into here, decor, I am not seeing it. We may need to regenerate. Forest, slice and animate props, create props. This will give Unity a second. And then we need to repopulate options. It looks like it's done it. It said 0 there, but I had hit it twice. There we go. Hammer 20. Why do we have 2? Did it just not clear correctly? Yeah, it doesn't look like it cleaned up the sword reference. So we've got the hammer. Which hammer do we want? That's too big. I think it's this one. I think that's gonna look okay. And I think originally I was thinking I wanted the hammer to be where the adventurer is, but I think instead I'm going to maybe spawn some props of like a broken shield, indicating the boar broke her shield and that's why she fell into the river. And we want to do some decals of like a little bit of blood. Drixie and I go back and forth on that. She's not sure we really need it, and I'm not sure either, but regardless, we'll do something there to really indicate the aftermath of this fight. And I think if the interact is here, the implication is that the reason she wasn't using her mace is that she dropped it while fighting the boar, and she's not able to get around to pick it back up. Okay, just kind of tweaking some of the layout here a little bit to fit my vision a little bit more. So we come over here, we can interact with this mace. Once we interact with the mace, we can do a hero move to 10-10. And then hero can like chat about failing to save the adventurer. Then the goddess will say, well, we can still save her. Goddess will, and then hero will be confused, and then goddess will pull us up to the goddess realm, essentially by fast forwarding time to the point where the demon lord resurrects. We die, and then the goddess explains to us that we can go again and try and save her this time. And then we start to kind of establish the Groundhog Day of like, you need to do a perfect run. It's not even just about finding the dungeon, it's about doing everything you're supposed to do within the period of time you have. Okay. We have a metric flag that I should set in order to test this more easily. We have some sort of flag that determines whether or not that adventurer... Actually, we should be able to check it on the adventurer spawn point. Adventurer lost, not started is required for her to be there. And then this currently requires adventurer lost complete. I'm actually going to change this so that this mace always spawns here, as long as the mace hasn't been picked up in the past. Okay, and then inside of our debugs here, I'm going to make a new copy of this one, which will be before mace. And then before mace, we'll have an extra flag in here for adventurer lost. Being completed, so that this will be in the correct state when we enter. And it might just be easier to just start one room up so that we can walk down, because if we just start in that room, we'll start on the left side as if we were coming in from the very beginning. Could also just tweak which location we're spawning from, but feels like this might be faster. It's probably not, because we're going to want to test that room a bunch. Why is that boar still spawning? The mace was there. The dungeon, it should require Adventurer 001 lost. Oh, we never actually swapped over. Right. We did not go into main flag override and change it to this one, and therefore it did not work. Well then, oh, and I made this so it always spawns, basically. Okay. Can I add a requirement to the interact part of it, though? Yeah, oh, it already does have one. So Adventurer 001 must be lost in order for this to be interactable. So even if the player did find a way to glitch over here, they won't be able to pick up the mace until the specific amount of time has passed where the adventurer should be gone. Okay. Cool. I want to add... Oh, we're at time. I need to stop for lunch. It is 1 o'clock. Oh, we started late too, so it's actually a little bit past. I'm feeling... I do think we have done some progression tuning, as per the name of this video. I think we have done some of that. It's been a little bit of setting up items. It's been doing some like treasure chest placement. It's been trying to figure out like how we're going to pace out some of this stuff. But I also feel like this has been a lot of me just talking and not really doing enough in the past 2 hours, especially considering we're already at the 2-hour mark. I think I want to take a bit of time this evening / this afternoon to work off camera, because I feel like some of this stuff while talking aloud is slowing me down a little bit, and I'd like to test my theory that maybe we could kind of get a better understanding if I take a step back and then just like write some notes on what I want to accomplish, and then come back tomorrow with a more of a, we're gonna, you know, just accomplish whatever I documented. Because I do feel like trying to figure it out on stream is slower than just, you know, figuring it out in the quiet of my own head and then coming in with a plan of action. Plan for... how how do I phrase this? I guess it doesn't really matter, but it's document flow for chapter 1. Space. Tab is too much. This doesn't matter, but it kind of matters to me. Okay, so I think I'm going to take some time today for the rest of the day and work on documenting the flow for chapter 1, and then tomorrow we'll come back and we will probably continue with progression tuning and call it progression tuning part 2. Yeah, I think in some regards my goal might even be not to do much work in engine. I think I just need to figure out what is it that I want to do, because I do feel like there was a lot of just philosophy today. So yeah, some of it I need to figure out by doing, but I don't know. I'll figure it out. Regardless, I think we're going to call it here for today. We won't come back at 3 like I was originally planning, and we will be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. PST to continue around where we left off here. And then Thursday, Friday, I'm off as well. I don't think I'll be taking those days off fully. I'll probably just still be doing some stuff off camera, but I have other things that will take my time. Saturday we'll return with some more art with Drixie, and then Sunday we'll have our normal times that we've been doing for the last few months still. Cool. For now though, this is going to be